told your friend you're not okay.
Have you ever seen a practice video, but it felt like something too real to be a rehearsal? A moment that wasn't designed for the stage, but instead felt more alive than the concert itself? Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. This BTS practice video is absolutely blowing up, making the entire fandom pause, only to replay it over and over again. Hello, armies around the world, especially those of you who faithfully follow Taehyung and Jungkook's every move. Today we're going to step inside a simple practice room, but it's filled with energy, chemistry, and moments that feel so personal. This isn't just a practice. It's a slice of their world that we rarely see, and trust us, every second is worth watching until the end. It all started so simply, but it changed the moment Taehyung walked into the room. There were no announcements, no stage lights, just a casual walk and one small detail that instantly transformed the atmosphere: his new glasses. It sounds simple, but somehow the entire vibe of the room was instantly different. It had a cool, elegant, yet effortless aura. It was as if even in rehearsal, he knew how to capture the spotlight without trying too hard. And yes, ARMY immediately agreed. This wasn't just a look, this was a statement. Then the atmosphere shifted again, from sharp and stylish to warm and relaxed. Taehyung sat, leaning back in a position that looked so natural, legs spread, body relaxed, yet still exuding a charisma that was hard to describe. It was the type of moment that wasn't staged, but that's exactly what made it so iconic. Even when he wasn't doing anything, he still felt like the center of everything. And then, Taekook. No words, no dramatic scenes, just one simple gesture. Jungkook leaned in, grabbing Taehyung in a way that felt light yet meaningful. Not overdone, not forced, but enough to make the entire fandom react instantly. They moved together like two inseparable magnets. Their synchronization wasn't just about choreography, but something deeper, a connection that felt real even off-screen. Amidst all of this, a small moment emerged that only strengthened it all. Jimin arrived with his trademark warmth, a quick handshake with Taehyung and Jungkook. Short, simple, but meaningful. This wasn't just about friendship. It was team chemistry that had developed over the years. It was small interactions like these that made the practice room feel more like home than a workplace. Then the atmosphere shifted again, this time lighter and filled with laughter. Yoongi, in his own way, suddenly played an invisible guitar. No instrument, no voice, but his expression and timing were impeccable. It was a side of him rarely seen, relaxed, playful, and utterly entertaining without trying. It was a small moment, but enough to make anyone smile. On the other side of the room, J-Hope took over as leader. His energy was immediately different, more focused, more assertive. He wasn't just dancing, but directing, supervising, and making sure every detail was perfect. But remarkably, he hadn't lost his playful side. One second he was laughing and encouraging. The next he was standing with a serious look, making sure everything was just right. It was this balance that made him so respected. And of course, no BTS practice is without a little fun chaos. There are moments where even fans are confused. Who's that? A camera angle, a new outfit, or just a quick movement? All create brief confusion that quickly turns into laughter. It's the chaos that's so cherished because it feels so human. What makes it all the more compelling is the contrast. One second they look like professional performers, sharp movements, full focus, high energy. The next, they're laughing, joking, and even looking like a group of friends having a great time together. This is the side of BTS that can't be faked. Hard work mixed with joy. Jimin doesn't miss a beat. Even in the middle of practice, his visuals shine. The way he stands, the way the light hits his face, it all feels like an unplanned photo shoot. He doesn't need to do anything over the top. His mere presence is enough to create the moment. And then one of the biggest highlights, Taekook's dance moment. Their movements are synchronized, precise, yet each has their own unique touch. They're not just dancing, they're telling a story through their movements. Their energy, control, and charisma combine into one, creating something that is hard to explain, but easy to feel. But what made it all the more interesting was what happened after those practice moments ended. Many people think that when the cameras stop rolling, the energy dies down, but not with BTS. Instead, after practice, the atmosphere shifted to something far more intimate, more natural, and more them. When the music stopped, the members didn't immediately disperse. They remained in the room, moving freely, teasing each other, and sometimes just standing there catching their breath. But there was a small detail that made ARMY feel closer than ever: the way they cared for each other. Taehyung, with his glasses that seemed to have become a new icon that day, joined the other members. He lifted his frame slightly, looked at Jungkook, who was still busy perfecting his moves, and then smiled, a small smile that seemed to say, "We've done this 1,000 times, but I still love watching you practice like that." Jungkook caught the expression, but didn't say anything. He simply returned it with a brief, meaningful glance, then continued his movements. A simple interaction, but an intense sensation. This is the Taekook dynamic that often captivates fans. A communication without words, but clearly felt. Hobie then approached with his signature energy. Even though practice was over, he still checked the formation, simulated a few steps, and gave Jungkook a gentle pat on the shoulder. These kids, even on top of the world, still treated every practice like a big stage. Never half-hearted. Meanwhile, Jimin and Jin were talking about something that made them both laugh out loud. The kind of laughter that only comes when someone is truly exhausted, but also truly happy. Jimin leaned in, shaking his body playfully, while Jin, with his never-ending, worldwide handsome charm, gently hit Jimin's shoulder, telling him to stop teasing. Yoongi sat quietly in the corner of the room, playing his invisible guitar again, whether intentionally or simply a reflex after the previous hilarious moment. But interestingly, Taehyung approached and imitated Yoongi's style, making the same movements but with a more exaggerated, dramatic flourish. Yoongi just raised an eyebrow, holding back a smile, then finally gave in and chuckled. Moments like this, simple yet sincere, added a new layer to the narrative of their close bond. Shortly after, the staff began to come in to rearrange the room. But instead of immediately grabbing their things and leaving, the members continued joking around. Jungkook suddenly grabbed his hoodie and tucked it over his head like a sleepy baby, making Jimin burst out laughing. Taehyung picked up the camera and started filming them, saying, "Come on, we'll upload this to Twitter." Once again, he kept the platform's old name, and fans immediately knew this moment would be replayed on countless timelines. And here's the part that truly melted ARMY's hearts. When Taehyung and Jungkook stood in front of the mirror, checking their moves one last time. They were no longer in idol-on-stage mode, but more like two best friends who had grown together, correcting, laughing at small mistakes, and occasionally glancing at each other with a nod. It was as if they were saying, "We did it again." Once things had calmed down, the lights were partially dimmed. But that was precisely the moment when the atmosphere felt most beautiful. The members stood in a small circle, talking in low voices. No one was sure what they were saying, perhaps about their upcoming schedule, perhaps about something small that happened that day, or perhaps just about how tired they were. But the warmth of that small circle was palpable, even if it was only glimpsed briefly. Then came the most talked about part in the ARMY community after the trailer was released. The photos of Taekook in his black outfit from BTS The Return. They looked like they had stepped out of a modern-day film noir, clean, sharp, and full of intensity. Interestingly, the photos seemed to perfectly mirror what was happening in the practice room. Harmony, power, and a connection that couldn't be faked. And finally, after everything felt like a complete chapter, there were small whispers from the fandom that suggested one thing: that all of these moments, both big and small, were proof that BTS still had something bigger to offer. That these practices might just be the beginning. That something was being built, slowly, with a solid foundation and unwavering love. If the previous video showed warmth and togetherness, then this follow-up moment shows the depth of their relationship. How every small, unplanned detail can seem meaningful.